You're listening to the Show We Go Baseball podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 17 to the Show We Go, featuring Ed Hand and myself, Andrew Parker. If you haven't had a chance to check out episode 16, we had a lefty out of Worcester this past year, Brendan Nail. He was one of my favorite guys in the clubhouse, undrafted guy. He's been in the Red Sox org for 7 years. He's a free agent now, but great interaction with him all season long. Good interview. And today's guest, he is, I interviewed him last offseason. He's not in the Red Sox org, but he was in AAA Charlotte this past year. We have Chase Solesky. Now, Chase, I wanted to see did your 2023 turn out for you?
A lot of ups, a lot of downs. It was a good year. I was healthy. That was probably my biggest goal coming out of the fall league last year. Shortened off season. It was definitely a year of growth, going from AA, had a lot of success there, didn't make too many starts there, maybe 6 or 7, jumped up to AAA, started off pretty strong, had a rough patch, finished the year well, so definitely a learning experience and a lot of growth.
Yeah, so for somebody that's not terribly familiar with your game, what type of a pitcher are you? What do you throw? How would you describe yourself if you were talking to somebody, as if you were scouting yourself?
Okay, so starting pitcher, preface that. So right-handed starter, 4-pitch guy, carry fastball. He's going to work north to south, meaning fastball at the top primarily, curveball down, harder bullet slider down, and a changeup that he throws to both sided guys. I think the changeup was the thing that made the biggest strides this year. It's became another weapon for me on top of the slider and the curveball. So that was a huge help at the end of the year. Strike thrower, he's going to try to come at you. So that was a little bit of an adjustment in AAA with the ABS and the challenge system, trying to be too fine at times. But when I was in the zone, I was very successful. So moving forward, just right at you, here's my stuff, good luck, that kind of mentality.
I'm going to ask you a little bit later. I just have one ABS question because obviously you didn't have that in AA and you had it in AAA. But what was it like getting that call up to AAA? And I guess what was the mindset once you got to Charlotte?
My call was a little interesting. So for whatever reason, someone comes up to me in the dugout after a game. It's a Wednesday night. I was supposed to pitch on Thursday. Okay, so we're talking 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night in Birmingham. Go out, the mound's crooked. Like, this is not a joke. The mound is legitimately crooked in Birmingham. Manager sitting in there, and he walks up to me. He goes, "That mound's pretty messed up, isn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, hopefully they fix it before tomorrow." And he was like, "Yeah, well, you're not going to have to worry about it because you're pitching in Durham tomorrow." And I looked at him. I was like, "I'm pitching in Durham tomorrow? It's 11 o'clock, dude. What do you mean I'm pitching in Durham tomorrow?" So packed up my stuff. I didn't even take all my stuff. I took like a small bag, and I was like, "I'll handle this later." Hopped on a flight at 7 o'clock in the morning, layover, and I don't even know. I can't even tell you where the layover was. And then flew to Durham. Got off the plane at 5 o'clock, Ubered 30 minutes to the clubhouse, got there at 5:30. Game started at 7:05. Punched out 7, walked none, gave up 2 earned, I think. Just that was my experience. And I was like, well, nothing to lose.
That might be one of the, I don't know, that one might top like one of the wildest, like, okay, like I got the call. It was all within like what, 18 hours, 17 hours, if that?
Yeah. I mean, by the time I was told, it was, probably 17 hours. I mean, I went home, probably went to sleep at around 1 o'clock, woke up at 5:45, didn't sleep on the plane because I was so anxious.
Man.
I mean, I didn't get my flight until about 12:15. So
it's just Also, that Durham lineup, by the way, when you got there, Durham is known to be like a powerhouse every single year. And I didn't get to see him this year in Worcester, but Josh Lester was on one of the previous episodes, and he's like, Durham's legit, man. So, what was it like, I guess, facing them as your first game?
That was the team that I struggled the most against. It was weird for me, though, because I would have 4 really good innings and then just 1 really bad inning. Like, they would get to me in 1 inning. So my first start, I gave up 2 homers to Basabe. I gave up 3 earned in my first start, 2 homers to Basabe, who had 2 homers on the year at that point. Hang with him. 2 bad pitches, like, live and you learn. And then next start, through 4, scoreless. I think I faced 8-9-1. Just couldn't get out. I didn't get out of the 5th. Then the previous start at home, it was okay. I think I was through 3 with 1. 4th, gave up like a 2-run homer. 5th came out. I think I gave up another run or 2. And then the 6th, they put me back out there, and I just struggled again. It was one of those things where they don't give away at bats, right? So they're going to hit their pitch. They're not uber aggressive early in the count, maybe a guy or 2. Every guy has the ability to take you yard, which is kind of tough. So it's like, every time you make a mistake, as in a walk, an error is made, something like that, there's more of a chance for you to get hurt by it. They know what they're looking for. Kind of just like Norfolk. They have 1 or 2 aggressive guys in their order, and then the rest of the team is patient and they're waiting for their pitch. It's challenging because every guy there has a big league approach and could play in the big leagues right now. Like, their 4-hole hitter was probably one of the least talked about guys in their team, Austin Shenton. And I think we looked at his numbers the 3rd to last series of the year. And on the year, he had 33 homers, was hitting 323, 100 RBIs. And it's like, okay, well, you're not even worried about this guy. You're worried about Meade. You're worried about Misner, Aranda. You're worried about everyone else but the 4-hole hitter. And that's the guy who also has 33 homers, and he's hitting 310 on the year. Like, that's the kind of lineup that you're facing there, which is tough.
And,
like, it's a challenge. But as a pitcher, you like that.
I was gonna.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Your pitching is very fearless. So how do you just mentally prepare yourself for these battles before you go into the game?
I know this is kind of a cliche answer, but it's kind of like you have to trust your preparation. I think that was one of the things that I had to refine when I got to AAA, just because I was on a 5-day rotation a lot more than I was in AA. So that 1 less extra day of rest makes a big difference, not in the way your body feels, but just in the way you prepare, right? So just getting in every day, being more diligent and more disciplined in what I was doing, that's what gave me more confidence towards the end of the year. Like, in the beginning of the year, I was kind of like, okay, I'm still trying to navigate. Oh, I'm on a 5-day. It's okay. Like, I've been there before. But trusting the preparation for me, getting used to being on a 5-day, which you are in the big leagues most of the time, and understanding what I have to do to be successful, which is get ahead in, like, strike 1 for me is huge. I read a stat somewhere where if I got strike 1, if it was an 0-1 count, the hitter had like a 535 OPS. If it was ball 1, the hitter's OPS went to 936. So you literally on 1 pitch take a hitter from being Matt Olson or Acuna to taking him and just being a very below average AAA hitter on the first pitch of an at-bat. So I think that for me is like the confidence. If you go back and look at my best outings of the year, my strike percentage, especially first pitch strikes, is through the roof. So I think that for me is like the biggest confidence thing. If I get ahead in the count, I know I'm going to be successful.
And what was the difference for you? Like, I guess the biggest difference from AA to AAA.
I think there's a lot of differences. That's kind of a loaded question, though. I was probably in the older third of guys in AA, and I got to AAA, and I was one of the 3 youngest guys there. There's maybe 1 or 2 guys in AA that have big league time, and then you get to AAA, and 80% of the team has big league time. So navigating that, definitely learning and continuing to be a professional is a big thing in the clubhouse. Like, I think that was a huge change for me. Like, I'm fine with that, but I really realized how much different it is from AA to AAA just in that aspect. Like, when guys get to the field, they're there to work. They're not there to like play ping pong. They don't like sit there and hang out and play cards as soon as they get there. Like, guys get there, they change, and they go right to their routine every day. On the field, I would say ABS. Just because, not because the strike zone was smaller, just because hitters knew their zone very well. Right? So I would think, okay, heater at the top to, what's his name from the Cardinals, Luke and Baker, right?
Man.
So
yeah.
heater at the top to Luke and Baker was very different than a heater at the top to Palacios or Mason Wynn, right? So you can never get comfortable with the strike zone in terms of, okay, I established the heater at the top. This is where it's going to be all night. No, okay, so the heater at the top to Luke and Baker is here, and then it's here. Or that first pitch breaking ball that I'm flipping in that he's calling a strike, and I'm just hitting that same spot every time. Okay, well, that's a strike to Mason Wynn, but it's not a strike to Luke and Baker. I think that was probably the biggest adjustment that I had to make with my stuff, is understanding, okay, well, that was a strike last time, but not this time. So how do we change and how do we adjust our sights to execute that pitch properly?
All right. Well, since he's on mute right now,
can you hear me?
Go ahead.
We got you.
Okay, yeah.
Ed's got some technical difficulties over here, so I might move into my next question, unless Ed, you have it fixed right now.
Yeah, I have it fixed. Sorry about that.
He's struggling, man. That's funny.
No, this is good. I'm telling you, man, we've gone 16 episodes and we've been like completely fine. There's been like nothing. It was always the other guy, right? It's like, it was like Lou Merlone. It was his Wi-Fi. But all right, we good now, Ed? We good?
No.
All right. I'm gonna dive in while he figures that out. But I saw so when we were in Worcester this past year, there was a lot of standing watching, especially in the second half. So I wanted to ask you, you joined Charlotte. They didn't have the greatest record I was seeing. I think in the second half for sure, I think they were towards the bottom. And that's like, that could be due to a number of things. There's just a weaker farm system, or a lot of the talent goes up to the big leagues and whatever. So I guess, what was it like, I guess, just joining a team? I wasn't sure if Birmingham had like, I guess, a great record or not, but what was it like, I guess, though, just joining that team? And even though they may have had a bad record, but you guys still had to just go out and do your thing.
That's an interesting question for me. Just because we started off kind of slow in Birmingham, but one of the things that I held my head on was that every time I'm taking the mound this year, I'm going to put the team in the best possible position to win. That was my goal. It didn't matter if I gave up 5 that day and the offense scored 7, right? I did my job. I kept the team in the game through strikes, quick innings, whatever it may be, right? So in Birmingham, I was 7-0. Like, not wins and loss record, but every time I took the mound, our team was 7-0. And I prided myself on that, right? I kept our team in every game that I pitched. And then I got to Charlotte, and I think we lost my first 9 starts. And it was like, okay, some of those things, some of those days are on me. Some of them, like, there was a game where I threw 6 innings and gave up 1 run, and we ended up losing. Those days happen. We can't win them all. Some days the offense struggles. Some days I struggle. It's a team sport for a reason. Just trying to understand that every day you take the field, every 5th or 6th day, that you have to put the team in the best possible position to win. Whether that means we go out and score 4 in the first. If you have bases loaded, just find a way to minimize to 1 or 2, right? Understanding those kind of things and not trying to do too much. Staying within yourself when you take the mound and not trying to go out there and strike out the side, and understanding, like, okay, if I just have quick innings, I get ahead of guys, get our guys off the field and off their feet, we're more likely to score some runs, have a little bit more energy than walk, double play, right? That kind of thing. That was what I had to keep in mind and be present about.
Okay, I feel like I'm going to be like Lucy and Charlie Brown here. Like, it's going to go mute just as I start asking my question, but I'm going to try again.
You can't even make this up.
He spoke that into existence. You
can't even make that up.
Firm believer of what you put into the universe comes back to you right there. That's why.
Ed, you can't even make that up because we heard every single word completely perfect and crisp up until you got into the question. So
yeah, man, I'm just unplugging. I just unplugged my microphone for right now to ask this because I need to know the answer for this. What was your overall takeaway on the automated balls and strikes? Do you think it's something that's going to stick? What's your opinion on it?
That's kind of funny. I walked into the clubhouse in Charlotte one day, and our media guy came up to me. Awesome guy, by the way. He was like, "Hey, ESPN's outside waiting for you." And I was like, "For what?" And he goes, "Oh, Ryan McGee's here. They're doing a piece on the ABS. Like, he wants to interview you for it." So I was on ESPN outside the lines for a segment, like a 20-minute segment on the ABS, and they put a lot of my comments in there. I was briefed prior, though. I'll tell you that. Here's my take on it. I think there's good and I think there's bad. I love the challenge system. I think it adds an element of excitement to the game. I think it keeps the element of human error in the game. And I think it adds a different strategic element to the game, which is awesome, right? I challenged one pitch all year. One pitch, it was a slider. And we were winning like 4-0. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And I was like, let's see how far outside it was. And it was the full ball was in the zone. And I'm like, man, I thought that was outside, but I thought it clipped. So for me, understanding like, okay, now I start to understand the zone. Now the hitter starts to understand the zone. Okay, you're not going to challenge a 3-1 fastball with 2 outs and nobody on, right? You're not going to challenge the potentially. If it's 0-0, you're not going to challenge the first pitch of the game, right? Even though it may not be a strike or the call may not be right. I think that's exciting. However, full ABS is challenging just because it's kind of monotonous at times, right? Like, umpire stands there. Oh, strike 3. And you're like, okay. Or sometimes, like, the umpire just stands there and they're like waiting for it and it's delayed. And then it's like, ball. Like, it's something like, I think there's things about it that need to be refined, but I think in some way, shape, or form, it will make its way to the major leagues. Probably the challenge system well before full ABS. I just think, like, for this whole purpose of, if you've watched some of the playoff games, like some of the calls that guys are getting, like looking at it from my perspective now, I'm like, dude, I would have done anything to get that this year. You know, in big situations too. So for a player to have the ability in that kind of situation to be like, hey man, like, I think that's a ball. And use it strategically, right? Like, you're not going to use it with nobody on and 2 outs. 2 runners on, 1 out. Like, oh, it's a 2-1 pitch and you called it a strike and I think it's a ball. It's awesome. Like, I think that is great for the game. However, full ABS adds 0 excitement, man. Like, no one's getting mad at the umpire. It's just like the players laugh at it sometimes, that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
No,
I will say the crowd, since Ed still has
agree with it, kind of taking the human element out of it. I don't think that that's good, but it can definitely add some excitement too. And it really takes your knowledge of the strike zone and the hitter's knowledge of the strike zone to the test. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's also unique to see how the umpire reacts to a challenge call that gets overturned. Andrew, I'm sure you saw it a little bit this year. You have a guy challenge a pitch that was a ball, and all of a sudden he called it a strike and it was a ball. Now you see the zone just ever so slightly shrink.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you kind of grow, or if the challenge is wrong, they challenge a strike call and it is a strike, like the zone kind of widens up just a little bit. So there is like there's an element of like Oh, you challenged that? You thought that was a ball? Like the umpire, sometimes I think the umpires take it personal. I'm not going to lie.
I think they did. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say this just because of like, I don't know if I'm supposed to say it because we were invited into the umpire room. Yeah, I don't know what I can say, but it was pretty much almost just like, they don't want to get shown up, right? Like they don't want you guys to challenge something. It's on the big screen in the outfield, and all the fans are like, oh, like I don't know if you saw this, but it did end up making. I think SportsCenter tweeted about it and a bunch of stuff, but there was a game in Worcester this year that was like a walk-off review. And I remember AJ Politi in Worcester was pitching, and there was like literally strike 3 in the bottom of the 9th with 2 outs and the tying run on second. And it went to the video board for review. And it's like, I get it. It's exciting, but it's like at the same time, it's like the umpires don't want that. They don't want to be like, I called a good game and now you guys are showing me up and the whole crowd now knows that I just missed that. And now they're all booing me and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
It goes both ways.
It is interesting too, though. Like there is a sense of accountability when you're using it. Just because it holds an umpire accountable, it holds the players accountable. Okay, like you disagree with the call, challenge it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, don't complain. You have challenges left. Just all you have to do is go like that, man. It's not that hard. So I think it cuts out a lot of the disagreement.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Like you don't really see players arguing balls and strikes anymore. It's kind of like
except for the fans don't know it though, and it was kind of funny because I would sometimes be walking around the stands just in the middle of the game just to kind of like, I don't know, just get struts of legs out and stuff. And it was so funny the amount of times I heard people yelling at the ump that was a bad call. And I'm like, they have no idea that was a computer that called that. But
my favorite thing this year is if I pitched on a Tuesday through a Thursday, right? When I tell you that I would get a text every game with somebody saying, man, the umpire was really squeezing you tonight. That was wild. And I'm like, yeah, it was tough out there tonight. Crazy. All the time. Like people would just text me and be like, yeah, man, umpire didn't help you tonight. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Even though it's just the computer. I promise you it's just the computer.
Yeah, I didn't like you that night, all right?
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it turns into.
All right, Ed, do I have you back now? Because I'm not even going to cut out any of it because that's what makes us who we are. We're the low budget podcast here, and I love it. So
can you hear me okay?
We got you now.
Okay, I'm going miceless. There's no mic for this. Because
all right, well, you're up here.
And I don't know what was going on there, but I'm not too pleased about it. So completely different topic here, Chase. But could you take me through your draft day? Because you were a 21st round pick. That's not even a thing anymore. What was the process like for you? And how I guess did you celebrate after?
That's an interesting one. I didn't do anything too crazy. It was just really just my family and I hanging out. I think it was a Wednesday, maybe a Thursday. I don't know. I was talking with my agent John on the phone back and forth. Had a couple of calls. Day 2, questioning about me. I was a redshirt sophomore, so education was a big thing to my parents and myself. And it was one of those things where, okay, well, if I don't get what I want and get both years of school, even though I only had a year left, I wasn't going to go. So there was a lot of, I would say bartering, negotiating rather, on that topic. And eventually the White Sox called and were like, yeah, we're going to give him what he wants. This is good. I agreed to it. And for me, it wasn't about where I got drafted. It was about what I got kind of thing. And I know that I don't really want that to come off wrong to anybody listening or watching. But for me, I believed in myself, right? I was like, okay, well, it doesn't matter where I get drafted. I know that I'm in control of my destiny, right? Like first rounders make it, 38th rounders make it, right? Declan Cronin, who went to Holy Cross, who was like a 36th or 37th rounder, his draft story is wild. I guess whoever was in the war room for the draft looked at one of the ladies and was like, hey, what name do you like best out of these 5? And she picked Declan Cronin, big leaguer. Right? Like, you're in control of your own path. And for me, like, that was my vision of it. Like, okay, I want to set myself up for the best possible success in baseball or outside of it. And, I mean, to celebrate, like, we just went out and had dinner, bunch of family, nothing too crazy, just it was more like, hey, you've earned this opportunity, but now kind of like the work starts. It was definitely a fun day, kind of stressful, a lot of nerves, a lot of uncertainty going forward. What's it going to be like? Never any self-doubt, though. I always just like, okay, I know who I am. I know how hard I work. I know my kind of like self-belief kind of thing.
Yeah. Were there any other pro athletes in your family?
Yeah, my dad played professionally for a little while and then ended up playing professional highlight for 21 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Highlight. What is highlight?
It's a game that originated in Spain. You use like cestas, you throw it. It's kind of like
I know what you're talking about. No, I know exactly.
Crazy, fast wall ball.
Yeah, no, I saw there's like this. My sister lives in Mexico City, and there's like this giant arena for that there.
Yeah,
that's so cool. Do you play that at all?
Dude, no, that is by far the hardest thing I've ever tried. I'm not even lying. Like, you get that ball in that basket and trying to throw it, and I throw it straight into the ground. It's an art. And the ball, it's like some of the hardest throwing in the world. Like, the ball will get thrown out of that basket at like upwards of 180, 200 miles an hour.
Oh my God,
it's a serious game. Like, it's very, very hard to challenge. That's why it's a dying sport, because so little people can play it.
All right, it's time, Ed. I got a couple one-off random non-baseball questions for you, and we have like a staple of a question. I don't even like throwing it in anymore because I've asked it too many times now, but I feel like it's the most controversial question that I asked, so I have to ask it. I know his answer to this because he went to college with Solesky at Tulane.
Right.
And Solesky may have already gave away the answer because you guys had a teammate.
I haven't talked to him about this.
No. But you guys had a teammate at Tulane whose family member either ran one of these. So here's the question. What is your go-to favorite fried chicken sandwich place? Or just fried chicken sandwich? Sorry. No, just fried chicken. I apologize. Doesn't have to be a sandwich.
Dude, like, yeah, you're going to think he gave away the answer, but it's Raising Cane's. I am so in on Raising Cane's. Sauce, the crinkle cut fries, the toast. I love it, man. That's like one of my go-tos, but they don't have it where I live. So anytime I'm in Arizona, I go like once or twice during spring training, and that's it.
Did you guys have a teammate at Tulane who's like was connected to Kane somehow?
Yeah, we had a lot of interesting teammates at Tulane.
I think Solesky said something about you guys had a teammate there, and I was like, I got to write that one down to ask Chase.
Yeah, there was somebody who was kind of affiliated with ownership there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, every time we had like a baseball tailgate for football games, like they would bring it out and hook it up and whatnot. Like we would do like Sunday crawfish boils and whatnot, and some people didn't like crawfish, so Canes would come out and hook it up. Like, that was cool.
Okay. And you were in Louisiana. Canes is from there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Baton Rouge.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, I mean, I kind of knew you were going to say that. I mean, the right answer was Zaxby's on that question, but I'll let that one slide.
No, it's not. It's not Zaxby's, I promise you. The
I
sauce
promise
is not as good, and it's way too much bread.
Oh, man.
I hate to tell you that. Fries, they might have it on the fries. I'm out on coleslaw. So out on coleslaw.
I don't know, man. I had to put in my Twitter bio the other day that Zaxby's is premier chicken place because I'm tired of hearing anything else, man.
I mean, you're wrong. It's obviously Chick-fil-A, but
I could do anything. Chick-fil-A is light years better than Zaxby's.
All right.
Zaxby's is like one, dude. I hate fast food. Okay, like I don't even consider Raising Cane's fast food, nor really Chick-fil-A. But I'll tell you that I would go to Wendy's over Zaxby's.
All right, we gotta move on, man. It's.
I know you hate that answer. I know you
listen,
hate that answer.
I'm okay because I love Cane's, and when I lived in St. Louis, I lived off Cane's. There was no Zaxby's in St. Louis, so I ate myself. Me and my roommate, we would go to Cane's way too much. I probably gained about 5 to 10 pounds just living with him off Cane's, and I'm not mad about it either. It's just Zaxby's is up here, Cane's is like just a little below, but they're both up there. So.
Why though? What's better for you? Don't say the sauce because that's the wrong answer. You can say anything else but that, I promise you. The sauce is not.
If I could order Zach sauce and just put it on anything, I would. All right.
Like you wish they sold that at the grocery store. Like they.
Yeah, you know how like Chick-fil-A sells their sauce in like a little thing now at grocery stores?
Yeah,
I want Zach sauce.
Hot take, I'm out on Chick-fil-A sauce too.
What?
Well, that is.
I know
the Polynesian sauce is so good.
I'll do Polynesian, barbecue, ranch, honey sriracha. I'll do anything but the Chick-fil-A sauce. I know that's crazy.
Wow. Even Ed's out on that one. Everyone's like, okay, now you're crossing a line here.
No, I mean, to be completely honest, I think the Chick-fil-A sauce is probably the weakest of Chick-fil-A sauces, oddly enough. I wonder if they put it on so much because it's cheaper to make, maybe. I don't know. That's a good question, but I kind of agree there. It's the Polynesian sauce and like the honey sriracha that I really like.
So good.
So you guys are telling
they push Chick-fil-A sauce. You know why? Because if they called it anything else but Chick-fil-A sauce, like why isn't Polynesian sauce Chick-fil-A sauce? You know what I mean? That's my question. They just came up with it and they're like, this is ours. This is what people are gonna like.
So are you telling me this now? I need to look into like how much it costs to make Chick-fil-A sauce versus all of the other sauces they have there, because that's I think you might be onto something.
That is good, actually. That's a conspiracy theory right there, but I'm here for it. But I'm also concerned that you two both go to a restaurant and get their main thing. So say you just get the number one and you don't even get it with their own sauce. That's bizarre to me. So.
Well, you try it once, but if you don't like it as much, why would you order it again?
I'm with you. It's just you're in the minority. That's all I gotta say.
Just like I want you to understand this. When you go to Cane's or Zaxby's, dipping a chicken tender in their sauce is pretty good, right? I'm here for it. Have you got a chicken sandwich from Popeyes and wanted to put like some weird sauce on it?
They don't have a sauce.
Yeah, exactly. Why? A chicken sandwich, like, I don't even think it really needs sauce. Do I prefer it? Yeah, like I'm a barbecue on the chicken sandwich guy. If I'm doing nuggets or like chicken strips, Polynesian, maybe the honey sriracha, I don't know. I just don't think Chick-fil-A sauce belongs on a fried chicken sandwich, if you know what I mean. Now, if you do the grilled chicken sandwich, sure, maybe Chick-fil-A sauce belongs better on a piece of grilled chicken than fried chicken. That's how I look at it. You know what I mean?
I'm going to be honest with you, though. I've never even heard of Polynesian sauce or heard anybody ever order it.
You lead a life full of regrets.
Dude, yeah. I just had to Google it. I had no idea what it was.
Someone threw this quote at me a while back. What scares you more, the fear of regret or the fear of people's opinions? Because I can promise you, you're going to regret not having Polynesian sauce in your life.
I'm going to try it. I'm not saying nobody's ever told me that's bad. It's not like I am telling you it's bad. I've just never even heard of it. So I'm always down to try something. It's my take on food is you have to try every single food once to know if you even like it or not, right? So I'll put that on the next time I go. I'm gonna get that and Chick-fil-A sauce because I'm probably just gonna go back to it.
If you haven't by the time the season started, I'm just gonna bring a big bottle of it to Polar Park next time I see you.
Yeah.
Wait,
that's what we're gonna do.
That also reminds me too. Did you? I don't think Birmingham played in New Hampshire. Did you guys play Manchester at all? The Fisher Cats?
No, we didn't.
Okay. We're going to a restaurant on Friday called the Puritan, and apparently they created the chicken tender. Like apparently it was like made like that was the first chicken tender ever like put on a menu.
That's like close to Bedford, New Hampshire, right?
It's right next to it. Yeah.
Hold on. My aunt used to live there. They just moved down south to Florida, to Port Charlotte. So what's it called? The Puritan?
The Puritan. It's they had the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, which is the AA for the Blue Jays this past year, had like national like chicken tender. They became like the chicken tenders or whatever their jersey said. And Puritan is the one that created it apparently, and it's in Manchester, New Hampshire. So I'm trying that Friday, so I'm going to see if that's up there. All right. I've had enough chicken talk here because that was like 10 minutes of chicken talk. That was pretty good.
Good combo.
All right. Well, next thing I'm doing is going after your golf game here. I need to know what's your worst part of your golf game.
Man, that's tough. Right now or in general?
Just if I had to ask any guy that you golf with, be like, hey, what is Chase struggling with? And they're gonna say what?
I want to tell you it's like driver consistency. But if my driver's not working, I put it away after 3 holes and just hit my 3-wood and I stripe it.
It's fair.
My wedges are probably my best. Irons I'm good with. Some days it's putting, some days it's my driver. It's definitely either tee or green. Those are the two.
That's fair on the 3-wood thing or whatever. I feel like that's like every guy. It's just like, all right, you either have it or you don't by hole 4, and if you don't, you're not touching that thing for the rest of the day. I don't even care if there's a bunch of par 5s.
The driver's weird for me because I'll hit it great for 7 holes, and then I have one bad hole, like I just snap hook one, and I'm like, okay, I don't trust it anymore. It's going back. Like I'm quick trigger with it. If it's good, I'll ride it all day. If it's not good, I'm putting it away.
All right, well then that's also so my next question, what's the best part of your game?
Oh, my wedges. You don't want me inside of 130 yards. I promise you that.
What about the bunker play here?
Solid. I was playing a scramble on Saturday with some buddies. We had 100, and I think it was a 118-yard shot. They were probably 30 feet away, and like they hit their shot probably 30, 35 feet away on the green. My partner gets up and hits. He's probably 25, 30 feet away, and I go to swing, and he just goes, dude, just pick it up. Let's go to the next hole. And I hit the shot to like 4 feet.
Hey, he said, hey, you're good. Don't even worry about it.
I don't know. I pride myself on that because I used to be a terrible wedge player. So then I just practiced at it. So I got really good at it. That's just who I am, though. Like now I'm trying to get my driver right, and my irons are kind of falling off. It's like this never-ending cycle.
Oh man, it's gonna be like that for the rest of our life, and we're just gonna have to deal with it because we're not professionals, and it's just like even the pros are like they go through it. So I have to tell myself that sometimes. Like, hey, even the pros like Kevin Kisner's just went through it, and he's been in the PGA for like 20 years. So it's like I don't know. All right, I got another random question for you, and it's kind of a funny story actually. So my fiance remembers you by one thing.
Oh, God.
And that, no, it's not a bad thing, but she remembers you because you are Radley Paddington's dad.
Yeah.
So I want to know, I never even asked you, like, where did that name even come from?
Okay. There was a lot of different names that could have been. There was like Bruce, there was Wallace, we had Brew, Dude, and like nothing really fit him as a puppy, right? Like he was kind of awkward, he was kind of clumsy, just like he wouldn't walk out of doors. Like he would, I kid you not, like he would like walk backwards out of the door. Concrete to grass wouldn't do it. You had to pick him up off the concrete, put him on the grass. Like if we were going on the boat from the concrete to the wood on the dock, wouldn't do it. So someone goes one day, oh, he looks like a Bradley. And completely heard him wrong. And I said, Radley? And someone goes, oh, Radley, that kind of fits him. It's just kind of one off. So Radley. And then Paddington just kind of followed because it was like Rad's Pads. So people call them Rad's Pads. And then someone just goes, Pads short for Paddington. And I was like, it kind of makes sense. So they would get like, it was one off, like completely just like misunderstanding. And I looked at him and I said, you do kind of look like a Radley. There it was. Because he wasn't a Bruce. He wasn't a Wallace. He definitely wasn't a Brew. See, I want to get a dog named him Brew, who's like a light brown color.
Mm-hmm. More fitting, yeah.
Yeah, like light brown, like little white face. That'd be cool. And he just wasn't that. So Radley just fits him.
Radley Paddington. It's one of the better dog names I think I've heard in a while, and that's how my fiance remembers you, because when we interviewed you last off, you know how like fiance's girlfriends are. They're just like,
yeah.
They're like, oh, like I remember this guy that you were talking about, and then he had the cute dog or whatever, and it's I don't know. It's just funny because every time like she'll like when we were interviewing somebody, she's like, "Oh, is that Radley Paddington's dad?" I'm like, "No, but I'm gonna talk to him eventually." All right, like
yeah,
we got him coming up, but that was all the one-offs, like the big one-offs that I had. Ed,
I've got an even more random one. I've got the most random one here. Birmingham Barons. Is Space Jam required viewing?
No, but I mean, you have to have a Michael Jordan jersey to walk into the field at some point. Like, a third of the fans every night are wearing a Michael Jordan Birmingham jersey, you can guarantee that. If Vegas was to set a line on over under, always take the over on Jordan jerseys at the Barons game.
That's cool.
Space Jam,
I didn't even know that was a thing.
No, Jordan, yes.
Yeah, when he went through his brief baseball phase, he played for the Birmingham Barons,
okay.
and I think the stadium is in Space Jam because that's that's like a whole joke. Is like the whole reason he came back to basketball was because of Looney Tunes. That's
okay,
I didn't know that.
The whole movie's just building towards that punchline.
It's funny.
I didn't know that. I knew he was with the White Sox. I kind of didn't even put that together that he would been in Birmingham.
Yeah, like you walk into the team store, I kid you not, like 2 racks just full of Michael Jordan jerseys, like white jersey, black pinstripes, 23, Jordan on the back, and everyone just wears them. Like you walk into the stadium, if you're on the second concourse, the whole front concourse right over the concession stand, one of them is just I kid you not, a massive mural or picture of Jordan in a Birmingham Barons uniform. Massive. You walk into the clubhouse, you go down the elevator, get off, Jordan picture. It's like, okay, well, we could choose a lot better baseball people, but I guess that's kind of cool. Like,
yeah,
everywhere. That's like their claim to fame, I think.
Oh yeah, at this point, you grew up in Florida, right?
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite player, and which team did you follow?
I actually grew up a Red Sox fan because my parents are from the Northeast. 2 favorite players growing up, I always loved. Manny Ramirez was like always a top for me.
He was so
and
fun.
Then when I was a kid and I was a hitter, I used to try to be like Ken Griffey Jr. So that's like one of my all times. Pitchers has to be Pedro, man.
I mean, happy birthday, Pedro, by the way. It's his birthday today.
Yeah, and this is going to be a unique one because my dad, when being in Florida for so long, started to like Tampa Bay. So we would always go to the Tampa Bay and the Red Sox series in Tampa because it was always right around my birthday, the end of September. And I got to see David Price pitch a number of times. And I just fell in love with watching David Price and Scott Kazmir. Like, those were 2 of my favorite guys to watch just because, like, I don't know. I felt like a Florida team, younger guys, cool to watch, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, a couple of lefties too.
Yeah, which is weird.
That is weird. I did have a question, and just seeing like maybe if I want to get a player's insight, and I feel like you're pretty like open enough to where I think you would have an answer for this. But the Red Sox just hired a new CBO, Craig Breslow, a former pitcher in the on the World Series team in 2013, and he's been around for a bit. But does that make a difference? That's like hiring a guy, I guess, as just running an organization that's a former player compared to a guy that's not, in your opinion?
Yeah, yes and no. Just because I think it's always nice to keep the player's perspective in mind. Right. And it's kind of one of those things like been there, done that. I can understand it. You relate to it. Maybe more so than somebody who has just seen it and not lived it. But I think for me, always hire the most qualified person who's going to do the best job to put the organization in the best position to be successful and win. Like as a player, right? You could hire a guy that he's a Hall of Famer, but he doesn't know a darn thing about being the CEO of the Boston Red Sox, Chicago White Sox, whoever it may be, right? Like, that's awesome that he's a Hall of Famer. He's 100% going to have the players' backs and always going to do his best. But if there's a better option, like, I want the guy who's the best option for us to be successful as an organization, right? That's my take on it. If, like, for us, we decide to hire Chris Getz, I think that's awesome. He's treated me with nothing but respect. He's always been amazing to me. He's been very outgoing and forward with me. But that's a guy who also understands the player side. He was a big leaguer for a while. He's been in a developmental and leadership role and somewhat of a front office role for a while now. So I think he has a really nice balance of, okay, I understand the player. I understand what they need to be doing on the field, and I understand what they need from the front office to be set up for success, right? So, yeah, I think there's definitely a benefit to it, but I don't think it's the end of the world.
Yeah, I was curious because I saw, I've been seeing a lot of, Twitter is a hell of a place sometimes, but it's a cesspool sometimes. But I feel like I saw like mixed reactions of like, oh, well, like, it'll be good that there's a player, a former player, because now like he has, like you said, all the players' backs and everything. But I like that answer. I think your answer was spot on, and I definitely expected one like that out of you. So I appreciate answering that.
And even from my perspective, like that's not okay, I need to watch what I say here kind of answer. It's just an honest answer. Like, there's a guy who has a big league experience or playing experience, awesome. If the guy doesn't, but he's going to put us in the best possible position to be successful, awesome. Like, great. I have to buy into whoever gets hired either way. You know what I mean? Like, I have to make sure I still have a job to do regardless of who's in charge, right?
Yeah.
Like, regardless of what my opinion is, I'm not sitting in the room making the hire, so I have to be okay with it. But I do like a guy who has some feel for the players. I think that
makes sense. All right, so we've had you on for 47 minutes here. We had a few technical difficulties. It is what it is, Ed. But Ed, so I have one final one for him. But do you have anything left that you want to ask?
Yeah, you seem like a pretty cerebral guy just from how you've talked about pitching and given us a lot of really thoughtful answers. What kind of hobbies do you have outside of sports? Because you've talked about you talked a bit about golfing and everything, but is there anything else that you like to get into?
Yeah, I stretch myself pretty thin. So one of my main hobbies that I try to get out there at least once a week. Sometimes it's 3 times a week. I don't know. So obviously golf. I love to fish. The weather's nice and it cooperates. And obviously South Florida. Love to do that. At night, I try to read a little bit. So I've been reading Atomic Habits. I actually shared something from that book on my story today. I saw it on Instagram and I was like, that's something that I think about consciously all the time. So figured maybe it'd help somebody else. So I'm reading that right now. Just something to keep me mindful about my day-to-day process in life. And just like not even about baseball or sports. Just trying to be better in every aspect of my life somehow, some way. I think I can always improve somewhere. And then I do a lot of stuff within the community, trying to get back to kids. Actually in the process of coming up with the foundation right now, like a nonprofit, to give back to kids who equal opportunity is just the gist of it, right? Kids that may live in, underprivileged households, that kind of thing, may not have the opportunity to have a nice glove or have a nice bat or proper coaching, or whatever it may be, right? So trying to work through that right now, planning out a kids camp, expecting about 250 kids there from December 15th, 16th, and 17th. So that's where a lot of my time goes. we have a lot of professional athletes from our area. Most notable, probably Rick Ankiel, Khalil Mack, and Michael Brantley. And Michael Brantley was around a lot when I was a kid, so I still have a close relationship with him and his dad. But I never had the opportunity to interact with those kind of guys when I was growing up, so that holds a special place in my heart. And just I know this comes off weird, but I want to be able to have kids meet me and interact with me so they just understand that somebody who comes from this town and maybe their situation can do great things in life or can obtain a dream that may seem so vastly impossible.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I was reading this somewhat recently that people generally pick to be as kids to be their role models, especially within athletics, they're not necessarily going to be like the LeBron Jameses. They're the people that make it seem like it's attainable for them and that they're like a real human being. So that's really cool to hear that that's something that you're interested in, because it does make a difference. It really does. And you might have some people that might not want to pursue that, and then they see you doing it and it's like, oh, maybe I can do that too. Like that's awesome, man.
Yeah, and I mean, I just know for me, we had a guy that was like in low A with the Rays come around when I was a sophomore in high school, sophomore in high school, and I'd play catch with him, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And he never made it past, I think he had a couple outings in high A. And that guy taught me so much, and I was like, dude, that's the best thing in the world. And I was in high school.
Yeah, you never forgot.
I know AAA is not the big leagues, and obviously AAA is not my goal. I hope that's clear to everybody, but I still think the opportunity for a kid to be around somebody who's in that position is still really cool. And I don't know, I can always give off a positive experience, and maybe all I want to do is just help one person change their life. You know what I mean? Like if there's one kid who's like, dude, that's impossible. And then he sees me and he's like, well, if that kid can do it, why can't I? Kind of thing. Cause I had that mentality growing up. I was like, I don't know if this is possible. And then one day somebody told me I wasn't good enough. And I was like, okay, I'm not good enough. Yeah, you're right. I'll prove that wrong. I honestly got it. It's my best friend's dad. And now we laugh about it and this, that, and the other. But if it wasn't for that moment, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at. And that was like a 10-year-old comment that I'd never be good enough to play for his travel team. So it's like, I don't know. That holds a special place in my heart. Just trying to, I don't know, give every kid an opportunity and make every kid feel like it is possible.
Well, definitely let us know whenever you finalize the foundation and everything, and whenever you're ready to throw it out on social media, because we will hands down spread the word any way we can. So
I appreciate you guys.
Oh, that is fantastic, man. All right. Well, we've had you on for 52 minutes. I got one last question and we'll let you go. I know you're at the facility, so I apologize for.
I'm just hanging out now. Honestly, I'm just hanging out.
Okay. All right. So obviously you got a taste of AAA. You finished out the year. Most likely will be starting out the year in Charlotte next year, which I hope. I haven't seen the schedule yet, and I hope you come to Worcester at some point.
We play in Worcester. I had to do a video, and I know how to say it. And they were like, just act like you don't know how to say it. Okay. So I know we go.
Are you saying like the actual name, like Worcester? Like it's not Worcester?
I had to butcher it like 3 times. And I was like, how do you even say that?
Okay.
Even though I couldn't even watch it. It was brutal.
Even though they know that your family is very familiar with the Northeast, but it's okay. All right. So hopefully that's at the beginning of the year, because let's just say you start out next year. Anything can happen, but let's just say next year you start off in Charlotte. So you've had that taste of AAA. What kind of goals do you have in mind for next year, other than a big league promotion? Like, you've got, now that you're in AAA, like what's next, I guess, outside of the MLB promotion, which is obvious.
So a couple of things, like personal from my Arsenal physical standpoint, make my slider more consistent, add a little velo to the slider, make it a little bit more consistent. And I think overall strike percentage, that's a massive goal for me, because obviously I told you about the OPS comment between ball one and strike one. So I would say slider, overall shape, command, velocity, strike one, so count leverage. And then I would also say probably strikeout rate. I think I could do a better job because I get guys to 2 strikes at an elite level, but do not put guys away at an elite level. And then I think one of my biggest goals is to be consistent, more consistent. And if I don't have a great day, how can I minimize that to be 2 to 4 runs instead of 6 to 8, right? There was a lot of times this year where I had a month where I went 5 innings, 1 run, 6 innings scoreless, 5 innings, 9 runs, 6 innings scoreless. If I can just minimize that 1 start to 5 innings and 3 runs, maybe I'm pitcher of the month in AAA, you know? I think that I was actually thinking about that on my drive in here because I knew you were going to ask me that, and I was like, it's a good time to start thinking about it. And just, I really think the consistency. I don't want to be the guy where it's like, okay, Chase Solesky is going to be lights out for 6 innings, be scoreless and dominant, or he's going to be 5 innings and 7 runs. Like, that has never been me, and it turned into me a little bit in Charlotte this year. I think that's my biggest goal, man. Like, to just go out there and be as uber consistent as possible. So if Lord willing, I do earn the promotion to the big leagues with whoever it may be, they know what they get from me every 5th day.
I didn't expect anything less out of an answer from Chase Solesky, man. I'm telling you, it's some of the more thoughtful answers like you hear. And we're on episode 17 right now. We've talked to some great dudes, and you're right up there, man. So
I appreciate it.
But we've taken up an hour of your time, man, and we appreciate you hopping on here and just talking with us. And I know Ed wasn't like super familiar with you, but I was, and I know I was sending a message to be like, Chase is one of the best guys in the game, so I had to get him on. So, but we appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys. Side note, I also appreciate your positive text messages all the time throughout the season and whatnot. That means a lot to me. So I appreciate your support and keeping up and whatnot and our relationship.
I'll tell you what, man, it's cool. It is cool thing to, so I learned this before we hop off here. I learned this in Worcester this past year. This was like my first year, like really in a locker room and getting to really see these guys like behind, just off the field. Like these guys were in street clothes, like walking in, like, so I've never really had that interaction. And there's so many personalities and stories and where people came from and why they're playing. And it's cool once you figure that out. And then you're just like, you know what? Like that guy had the wildest upbringing and he's made it all the way here. And that is damn cool.
You remember my podcast idea from last year? You don't. The journey. It's just the journey. Sit down one-on-one with the person. You want to know nothing about their pitches, how they hit, whatever. All you say is just like, tell me how you got to where you are. Why?
Write it down right
now. Build off questions off of like just the journey, man. Like I just want to know about your journey. Like why'd you start playing baseball or whatever sport it may be? High school, college, like I said, a lot of differences from a 21st rounder to a first rounder or a high school draft pick to a college pick or a senior sign or a free agent sign. Like everyone's journey is unique. Like that'll never be the same episode. I told you about that last year.
You did. And I wasn't in like the creative mood, but now I am. And now I have like a few more guys too that I can reach out to. So I have it written down, the journey. I need to make sure that it's not trademarked or anything to go into it.
Yeah, it can be whatever. You can name it whatever, but I just think the premises behind that podcast would be cool. And I think I told you it makes you very relatable to fans. And it's something that people enjoy talking about, man. Like everyone likes to talk about how they earned where they are.
All right. Well, episode 1, I already have down Chase Solesky. So
you let me know I'm there.
We'll get into that at some point. But like I said, man, we appreciate the time and thank you for hopping on.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys as always.